So hello again, Teresa. Hello again, people of the world. I'm here again with Teresa, and so going off of where we were going last time. There's so many questions. First, how many astrological charts have you read?
Oh, that's a really good question, Will. Boy, I've never really counted. It has to be at least a minimum of 1,000 people I've looked at astrologically.
Awesome.
Yeah, pretty sure. I guess I can count. I'll count that all up and we will get back to you on that one as to the exact number of how many people I've read.
How many regressions have you performed?
Regressions. Now those, yes, boy, that's a little lower than the astrological because I don't do that for everyone. So I would say probably that's a really small number, a handful. Maybe 50, maybe. That's really small. Yeah, over the years.
What do you say, because I know a lot of people come into your office for all sorts of different,
yes,
right?
Yes.
What do you say is the most common service?
Tarot cards. That's the most common service is the tarot cards.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the quickest and easiest for me and for them. And so that way they don't have to spend a lot of time getting the information they feel they need.
Yeah.
Because that was one of my first gifts, remember. That's the one I kind of remember when I was really young.
Yeah.
So that's the easiest way for me to connect.
Cool.
It's not the only, but it is the easiest.
That's awesome. What's the most common question you get?
Oh, love.
I figured.
It's gotta be love. Love, love, love. But then, careers thrown in there, and, every now and again, spiritual awareness and development, but far more often love and money. And cars, believe it or not, and when am I going to have a baby, and all of those good things.
I remember in my first couple of sessions where I had the idea of growth and spiritual awareness, but it was more okay, so yeah, love, and then band and money.
Yes, and those are perfectly valid questions. There's no wrong questions in my book. There's no wrong questions. There's no stupid questions. There's no limit on what we can look at. I just always like to remind people to drop the expectation and see what's going to happen. We all have these expectations. We all want these things, but let's not let ourselves down so drastically, but let's just see how it's going to go. Yeah.
Totally.
Big proponent of that.
Awesome. It's funny, I'm just thinking about those entire first 4 months of us talking and you teaching me, and it definitely went that way, It was just okay, well, let's just see, and then what about this time? Well, let's do animal totems. It's yeah, okay, cool, and it's just been a fun adventure the entire time.
Yes, and treat it as an adventure. Explore. What works for me might not work for you. That's okay. It doesn't have to. We all have our own unique way of perceiving and doing things, so find that and utilize it to the fullest, but don't ever be limited by it.
Totally.
Yeah, don't get yourself stuck in a limit and say, well, this is the answer. Well, there's lots of answers. This is the answer for the moment. That moment will pass. There might be something else in there that you're so focused on this you've overlooked. So always, always, always try to take the open-minded approach to the whole of it.
Totally.
Yes, yes. And then the dead guys are getting real popular, but whatever. Some of them want me to talk to the dead guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they drive me nuts, but whatever. People like it. I don't know why. They're dead. Leave them dead. But that doesn't happen. So yes, it's okay. I'll do it. But yes, it's interesting. They're very intrusive. I just want everyone to know that. If you start channeling dead people, you'll find out what I'm talking about.
You ever get any cranky dead people who are leave me alone?
Yes, you do. You get cranky dead people. And the first connection they make for me is usually what they died from or their pain. So that's the first thing I typically get is how
fun.
miserable, yes, and how painful their death experience was, and it's like, oh, I'm dying, you know, or I don't have any legs, or I think my head was just blown off. Wait a minute, I'm on fire. So yes, all of these things. But remember, that's just their way of showing me the experience they had when they were leaving. So, and that's also sometimes it gives the loved one, they know how they died. So that really cements for them that I am talking truly to the person and not just making it up in my head.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Because sometimes you think you're making it up in your head. You really will. You're like, this isn't right. There's no way. But then you're right. So.
You say that one thing that only that one person knew. Or
Yes, absolutely. Or you say the sentence they said right before they passed, or, you know, I mean, word for word. Sometimes in their voice, sometimes, you know, who knows. It's crazy stuff. But the dead guys know no boundaries, so I'm just warning everybody who wants to do that. They know no boundaries, so, and I think I've solved it, for myself anyway. Because I remembered when I was a little kid, I finally just stood up and said, only my guides can talk to me. And then that way it kind of lessened the burden of seeing all the dead guys that there are hanging out. And it got me back in touch just with my guides. And so I'm trying that again, and I'll do a progress report for you on that.
Cool.
So yes, we'll see if I can maybe, because they're coming early, and then they're staying late, you know, and 2 weeks before the dinner, come on, I don't know. I got a backache, that's all I know. But really, it wasn't my backache at all. It was someone who
got chopped in half.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. And I'm walking around, you know, thinking I'm all out of whack. And it's not really me at all.
So is that person annoying you?
Yes, annoying me, getting so excited because they want to tell their loved one whatever they want to tell them.
Oh, shit.
So, we'll see if it works. We'll see if just my guides can talk to me, if that will work, and they'll maybe stop some of the craziness that I've been experiencing since I opened that door again. And that's a fair warning to anybody who wants to open that door. Fair warning. It's a crazy place to go.
It seems like a Mercury and Pisces energy gift. Like
Yes.
whether it's house or the actual placement, every single Mercury and Pisces person I know, and that includes Joe, and you know.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys have just an incredible gift of tapping in and channeling, and you know, being my dad has that, and he's always just weird, you know.
Weird
what I mean?
stuff.
Yeah, and it's been wonderful. Oh yeah, he's like, what was I saying?
What was that? I have no idea, and it really wasn't even. Yeah.
But you guys' channeling ability always amazes me.
Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's good to be aware that you're channeling so you don't get misdiagnosed with DID. Because that can happen. Because you lost all the time. It's like, I don't even know what I was doing. I was active? I didn't know. So that's a fine line in there. And so, yes, make sure it's a channeling and not a psychiatric disorder.
Schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia, you know, lots come to mind. And yes, take it all with a grain of salt and a light heart, or it'll get to be too much and you'll drive yourself crazy. Never take yourself seriously. Take what you're doing seriously, but not yourself doing it.
That's awesome advice.
Yes, come on, we gotta just giggle about the whole
life thing.
Life, it's just life. Come on, enjoy the process. Let's not take it all so seriously. I mean, yes, we got karma to clean up. We gotta do our daily living exercises. We gotta be here.
But we can enjoy the absurdity.
Yes, enjoy the absurdity. Relish in the differences. Relish in all of the craziness. We certainly don't need to go to war about it. We can just, you know, have a lively discussion about it.
Blow things up in our mind.
That's right. Blow it up in your mind. You don't have to really blow it up. You can just blow it up in your mind. And if it challenges your very core, again, that's a good place to start to see where you started, where you planted that seed in the first place. Because typically everything we hate, we basically were at one time or another. Or if we're hating it so much, we're going to incarnate and be that, so that we can understand where they're coming from. which is really scary if you think about it. Think about all the things you hate. Oh my God, no, I can't, no. So it works really well if we start forgiving ourselves now. Yes. And everyone who has those opposite opinions that we say, you are crazy. They might very well be, but, you know, we definitely don't want to incarnate as that, just to learn from it. We can learn from sharing instead of having to become.
Totally.
Yes.
A lyric from one of my favorite musicians comes to mind is, we're so quick to point out our own flaws in others.
That's exactly right. That's what we do. That's the only flaw we're seeing is something within self that we have projected and laid on to another. Which really becomes comical once you know that. Because then you can look around and you can recognize that none of that was even in anything to get upset about. It was just you projecting it onto them. So I say become an actor. So you can play all of those parts. Become the actor, play all of the parts, get it over with. Live those parts to the fullest. Whether the movie's a success or not makes no difference.